It's been almost a year since Part 5 ended, and unfortunately we've had no confirmation of a Stone Ocean anime being in the works, so we'll be waiting a while for Julian and company to grace our screens, if it happens at all. That's not to say that David Productions haven't been working on anything JoJo related however, as since September 2017 they've slowly released 4 OVAs based on the Thus Spoke Kishibe Rohan series, a spin-off featuring everyone's favourite fictional mangaka that's been sporadically releasing chapters since the late 90s. Announcements and releases for these episodes usually coincide with the end of one of the anime's parts, and since it doesn't look like we'll be getting anything new in the near future, now seems like as good a time as any to talk about why the Thus Spoke Kishibe Rohan series is some of the best JoJo related work David Productions has released. 4 of the 9 chapters have been adapted so far, and at first glance you'll immediately notice how different it looks compared to the main series. Instead of being lazy and giving the story the Part 4 art style that had already been translated to anime form, the studio went out to faithfully recreate the look of the original manga, and by and large it looks absolutely gorgeous. While it may seem obvious to adapt the original art, it's a lot of work to essentially give each episode of this a completely different art style, and seeing David Pro put so much work into this makes the OVAs feel like a love letter to the series. It's really fascinating to see JoJo with a completely different look, and plot aside, it adds a lot to watching these episodes. Episode 16, as it's referred to in the manga, cause Araki's Weird, is based on the Part 5 art we all know and love, while most interestingly, Episode 2 uses the Part 7 art style, and Episode 5 and 9 are inspired by Part 8. There were some hiccups with the first 2 episodes, such as whatever this thing is, but David Productions absolutely redeemed himself with Episode 4, known as The Run. This is a perfect recreation of the original art, and Rohan looks absolutely stunning in this form, honestly making it quite hard for me to go back to how he looked in the Part 4 anime. The episode also has some of the most fluid animation of the entire series, with the studio going above and beyond with the production value of the latest episodes. Manga readers will get even more out of watching The Run, as it's an excellent proof of concept for a JoJolian anime, which was long considered by the community to have an unadaptable art style due to its highly detailed look. Clearly that isn't the case, and getting to see JoJo in this style years before the anime has caught up feels like a dream come true. When it comes to the actual content of these episodes, they manage to be very different to what we're used to while still exemplifying the best aspects of JoJo. For example, one of the strengths of these are the fact that stands are rarely in it, believe it or not. Rohan spends this series investigating or getting roped into urban legends and folklore, giving us a lot of scenarios that don't make sense even by JoJo standards, but stand out due to their bizarre origins. Instead of following the usual crazy thing happens, stand appears, stand gets defeated format we see most of the time in early parts, you never know how the stories will be resolved, and I had a lot of fun just seeing what Araki could come up with that is most unrestrained. Episode 2, known as Mutsukaibe Hell for example, is quite possibly the weirdest thing he's ever made, involving a corpse that never stops bleeding. It's batshit crazy, and I was constantly second guessing myself for these episodes, wondering if there was a stand involved or if I was witnessing some bizarre otherworldly phenomenon, adding to the mystique of the series. This is probably intentional, with Araki wanting to subvert our expectations of the traditional JoJo structure, so hats off to him for making something that captures the essence of the series while also having its own unique feel. Episode 5, at the confessional, is also a lot of fun, and probably my second favourite episode. Most of this story centres around a man being forced to throw popcorn in the air to try and catch it in his mouth 3 times in a row, otherwise he dies. While this seems like the most mundane thing ever, JoJo manages to make it intense as hell, almost comically so, with all sorts of interference and strategy coming into play. I love when the series takes a pretty simple concept and adds its own twist to it, with this episode being reminiscent of moments like the rock paper scissors and Darby the Gambler fight, which never fail to entertain me. As you've probably guessed, The Run is my favourite episode, featuring Rohan competing against a gym nut that's way too competitive. The episode looks the best by far, having a great art style and the trippy JoJo aesthetic we all know and love, and has my favourite climax out of any of the episodes. Featuring a bizarre antagonist and an engaging scenario for the story, The Run is a great mix of surrealism and intensity, and I'd even go as far as to say it's one of the best standalone JoJo episodes, with all the characteristics we love about the series. Millionaire Village is the only episode I have any real issues with, following Rohan and his editor being trapped in a house that won't let them leave unless they follow certain rules of etiquette. It's really just personal preference, but I wasn't that into the premise, and coupled with the inconsistent art and wonky pacing at times meant that this episode fell flat for me. Overall though, 3 of these 4 episodes are absolutely phenomenal, and David Production really outdid themselves with the, well, production. Rohan works really well as a protagonist, with his inquisitive nature always looking for manga material being a good way of explaining how he got into these situations, and I liked seeing more of the supernatural aspect of the series that's featured now and then throughout the parts. If you're up for more JoJo goodness with a mystery and horror twist, you'll have a great time with these OVAs.